Hey now. Happy Thursday. How are you? Let's see, it's evening, right? Boa tarde for you, boa noite for me. Hope y'all are doing well. Yes, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. It's Thursday. My favorite day of the week. Let's see who was the first in the chat today. Oh, Steven. Hey, boa noite, Steven. How you doing? Hey, Marguerite. How are you? How are you? Hey, Greta's in the house. Hey, hey, hey now. Alexandria. One of our channel members is here. Word Up Psychotherapy. You too can be a YouTube channel member. Join. Click the button below this video. And speaking of clicking buttons, why don't you hit that like button while you're here? Get comfortable. And if you haven't already subscribed, do that too, so you don't miss a video or a live. Because today I have a guest tonight, and we're going to get to that. The ABX girl is here. Yay, yay, yay. Hey, our Black Utopia. How you doing? How you doing? Francis B is in the house. Melanie Man. Hey, Kevin Kev. Tasha is here. Hey, Tanya. Hey, Nicole. How you doing? Let's see, where did Nicole go? There she is. Francis B is one of our YouTube channel members too. You should be like Francis B. Click that join button, see? Desiree is here. Hey, Anya is here. Hey, hey, hey. Winnie B in the place to be. Hey, y'all. Hey. All right. Monica. Eleanor is here. Yes. Hey, hey, hey. How y'all doing? Happy Thursday. I've been out in these streets again. Well, for the first time in a minute. Hey, Malcolm. Long time no see, homie. I have been out in the streets, back out in the streets, because y'all know last week I was a little jacked up. I'm feeling much better, much, much better. I can breathe. I recorded an episode earlier this week. It's a doozy, y'all. And then I'm recording again tomorrow. I had to reschedule from last Friday because I was too congested to even talk. And I warned y'all on the last video. I was like, woo, Luckily, it was limited to my nose and just feeling tired. But nothing beyond that, no fever, no cough, no nothing crazy. But Lord, I've been catching these stories and heebie-jeebies are going around. Like a little bit of heebie-jeebies here, and I see people masking up, but lots of heebie-jeebies I see in the US and seeing stories of Corona and RSV and all kinds of other stuff, especially as people are going back to the office post-holidays. So I'm hoping you are all staying safe, dosing up on some vitamin C, take all your stuff. Take all the precautions because it is not fun being sick. Let me tell you, I sat on my couch for many, many a day. And shout out to our Blaxit Global Passport members. We had an awesome accountability check-in last night, and it was very, very joyful, very joyful. Thank you, Candace. I'm feeling much better. Yeah, Greta, let me tell you, I'm telling you, heebie-jeebies. Yes, tomorrow is Sangria Friday. You know, y'all. You know, Fridays are made for sangria. Oh, wow. Yeah, Joyful One said, taking my vitamins every day. Greta's wearing face mask. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Last night's group was fire. So for those, I probably should explain who I am before I talk about the accountability group, because some people don't know who I am. So I'm Krishan Wright. I'm the founder of Blaxit Global, the host of the Blaxit Global podcast, which is in season 6, by the way. So if you are a Black person and you are considering moving abroad, or maybe you are abroad, I'm your girl. You're in the right place. So we talk about all things moving abroad on this channel and travel and other lifestyle stuff, but mostly moving abroad. So in our Blaxit Global Passport community, which is our private community, we have a monthly accountability group that I run, and we had 15 members on last night. We were on for a couple of hours, and members have been making so much progress. One of our members is leaving on Sunday, making her Blaxit, and a couple other members will be joining us in February on scouting trips. Speaking of scouting trips, I am hosting a scout house called Nomad Noir. So if you're interested in scouting Portugal with me as your host in August of 2024, you can join us for Nomad Noir. Find the link in the description of this video, and I will also drop the link in the chat for those of you who are here live and want to look at the Nomad Noir options. So we're going to be promoting this for at least another month, and then I'm sealing it off. So there is limited time left. Yay. What else do I want to tell you? Oh, before I bring on our special guest. And Monday is a new episode of the Blaxit Global podcast, available on all podcast platforms. So you'll be tuning in. For those of you who are residency visa channel members or Blaxit Global passport members, you already have that episode. So listen to it. Let me know what you think. Awesome. Anya is on it. She's already asking about 25, 26. I just got to get through 2024. And speaking of 2024, not only that, I mean, there's a lot going on before I even go too far. We have to talk about two more things. One, we have our boat party, our summer meetup with our Black Utopia. Yes, we are joining forces once again. And we are bringing you our summer meetup boat party during Juneteenth, right? So let me pop that here. It's also linked below this video for those of you who are watching in the future during the replay. So definitely come. We're going to have a lot of fun. So we're going to kiki, have fun, and kick back and enjoy that. And if you missed the first union between Blaxit Global and our Black Utopia, we co-hosted the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit in November, which I know I'm biased. It was fabulous. So you can get the replays to the Move to Portugal Virtual Summit. The link is below this video. And for those of you who are here live, I will drop that link as well. So definitely, if you're interested in moving to Portugal, this is your one-stop shop. We have immigration attorneys. We had sessions on people who are moving to Portugal with their children, you name it. We boil the ocean. So you will have that there. So speaking of oceans, right, because now I'm an ocean away from where I used to live in the United States. Can you believe it's been 4 months that I've been in Portugal? But, or maybe as part of being on this journey, I've had the pleasure not only of basking in the joy of living here, but also meeting new people. And I met this one fabulous person. Well, actually, it's two of them. They're a couple, but we have one of the fabulous people joining tonight. So I had the pleasure of meeting Tadassi. I believe the first time, let me bring her up, was during Sangria Friday.
Hi.
I'm
Oh,
telling all
good.
business. Sangria Fridays is how
Yeah,
we connected.
absolutely.
Yes, and now you are here. And Tadassi, you are a wonderful person. I'm so glad that we have connected on this journey.
Thank
And
thank you for having me.
oh, you're welcome. I was like, you know what? Tadassi's fabulous. We've been hanging out quite a few times. Our Sangria Fridays, your recent birthday soiree, which
Yeah,
was a fabulous place, by the way.
yeah, a
We've
great
had game nights. I mean, we've had so much fun.
snack
And
was talked
yes,
over some spades.
over spades.
Yep.
And in addition to us both being in Portugal, uh, another thing that we have in common, although I'm a little late to this party, or newer maybe, I don't know, to the party, is early retirees.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
Yes, yes. So I thought for tonight's topic that we were going to chat about your early retirement and how people can maybe glean some inspiration and information to help them on their journeys.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it. I'll definitely share. I'll definitely share. What I know, what I'm kind of going through. Um, so for me, although I was planning to retire early, I think we would have been even closer in common to our early retirement date because I actually planned to work the year of 2023. But I ended up retiring at the end of um, 2022. And I also, as a result of my decision to move. So for me, I've had to do some, and I'm still doing some work. I like to say that I'm practicing retirement. um, but I had to do some work to just kind of ground myself and
Oh, you have
separate. Can you hear me?
yes, now I can. I lost. I think we both went away for a minute.
Oh,
Yeah, I said,
really?
"Oh no, the internet gremlins won't let me be great."
Okay. How's it now?
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
good. Like cross my fingers and hope that it's stable. You know what I think it is? It's like you talk about early retirement and capitalism gets upset, and so
Right, right, right.
they just want to squash the comments. So
All the conversation. That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
it's not a thing, right? So
Right.
to set it up and to tee it up a little bit better, um, you prior to joining the early retirement club, uh, you were a benefits analyst, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah. I did total rewards. I did all benefits, pension, 401k, health and welfare. I had transitioned into the Affordable Care Act reporting. So all the like 6055, 6056 reporting up to the IRS, and then also generation of the statements to individuals. So I had, in both of those cases, a book of clients that I worked for a benefit administrator.
Oh, wow. And so I'm interested in, and I don't know if in your role, like you said, you had total rewards, 401ks. I don't know if you had like either purview into people's, maybe not in their like numbers, but was it often that you saw or heard from people that either felt like they didn't have enough for retirement or felt maybe that they planned later? Was that something that was a theme? I'm just curious.
Um, Not so much. I mean, when I was earlier in my career, I was a project manager for defined contributions, which is the 401k, and health and welfare. So I was more comfortable with health and welfare benefits, the ins and outs. I was more comfortable even with pension because there were provisions. It was just math that you can do on the calculator. You could, tell people their retirement benefits if they retire early, if they waited a couple months, that type of thing. And it was back in the day where you had provision books. So you knew the benefits inside and out for whatever clients you supported. When I moved over to the 401k side, I hadn't actually done that like on a customer service level. I was just a PM already, and that was a client came up under my book of clients, and that was their primary benefit was 401k. So I got more of actually people who did not want minimum distributions. And me having, I guess, had experience enough to know to invest at least up to the company match and, kind of playing around with it. I was young, I would be like, man, they have like over $1 million. Why don't they want their minimum distribution? So, it wasn't until later I realized, okay, like, because people would be almost irate. Like, look, don't send it to me. I don't want it, because it's putting them in a whole nother tax bracket. They probably had other benefits, so this is a requirement. It's nothing that could be done about it. But a lot of retirees often find themselves in situations where their tax bracket is higher than it was when they were actively employed. So yeah, I got calls like that. I also got calls on the pension side where people didn't know anything about the 401k. So they were lucky enough to be getting a pension, but their companies say maybe transitioned into 401ks, and they just thought it was gambling. Like they never did anything with it. They never took free money, and really, I kind of look back on it now that we're talking about it. One of my clients, they went to the homes of their retirees, and they billed it as, they're really hand holding them. And they were really wanted us to understand that and understand that they needed that over the phone. We no longer, we're going to scale back on visiting people. So I wonder why the retirees who were Southerners, a lot of them that I talked to who worked in factories and things like that of a certain color, but all Southern, well, a lot of the Southerners, not all the same nationalities. I wonder why they didn't know more about the 401k if they were visited at home and talked through their benefits and things like that. But yeah, so those were the two things I saw. I saw either people retire with a pension and it, not be enough. Sometimes it was, and then not even know what to do with the 401k or just never have participated. And then I saw others who knew exactly what to do with it but didn't probably understand, rolling it over or, any ladders that would have allowed them to avoid some of those taxes when it was minimum distribution time.
Yeah, it's interesting just thinking back, and thank you for stepping me through that, because when I think back to, early years of life, when I'm listening to family members and, they had pensions, and I mean, 401ks is still relatively young in the grand scheme of like a mechanism. So it wasn't like something that the previous generation had familiarity with and then like kind of talk to our generation. I remember the first time I heard, like when I was in government, I think it was like 403B, and then subsequently went into corporate and was a 401k, and not really understanding all of what you should do with it, and also not being at a place of having discretionary income to where it was just like, oh, let me prioritize this. It's like, oh, kids need diapers, daycare,
Absolutely.
food, right? And so many times I feel like many people either invest in the 401k, either like their job puts a contribution or they get a withdrawal from their check. But I mean, I see stories and hear stories of people that for years have put money in but didn't allocate it to a
Yeah.
fund, or were super conservative because they didn't understand like their risk tolerance, or the market just seemed very scary, and just like I said, some people, when it's too much information, it's just human nature, really, is like you can either freeze and kind of have your head down like ostrich, or some people want to just kind of dive in and like get themselves up to speed. And I have to say it took many years to get to the latter, right? And so, or from the former.
And
So
if you think about it, it's because if it's so that wasn't their business. That wasn't
Mhm.
what they did. It was a benefit, and it wasn't a benefit that they were using immediately, like healthcare. Like you'll dig into, if you're sick, you might dig into healthcare and how it works and the deductible, and if you got a back problem, does it cover chiropractic and all of that those different things. But when you're looking at the 401k, they see low risk, high risk, medium risk. They
Mm,
don't know what that means. Anybody new to it wouldn't know what
yeah.
it means. You just really see risk, right?
Mhm.
It's new. Like it's new. It's this new thing. It's not, they're not giving me this pension money, and all this says risk. It's just low, medium, high, so
Mhm. And your future self feels so far away when you're younger, because now that I'm going to be 50 in a few months, time and days go by faster than they did 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So when you're in those earlier years, and for those of you guys watching, you let me know if I was the only one. But it's like, retirement, that's like something you do when you're 65, 70, and when you're 30 or 25, that's like, oh, I'll worry about that later,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Um, and then as you get older and you have more life experience, I guess, and life starts to happen, and that time starts to feel more sped up, then you
Yep.
realize like, no, actually that's around the corner. And do I need to work as long, or more to the point, do you want to even work another
Exactly.
30, 40 years?
Yeah, yeah. What you start, I think, just trying to consider what you want your life to look like. And
Mm,
um, you know, I, I I think what I've done this year, or what I've thought about, I was sharing with you, was the psychology of it all. Because
mm,
I had to kind of separate things into, you know, what's a change and what's a transition. So, moving to Portugal, it was a change. It's,
mm,
external, it's public. But then retirement is a transition. It's
mm,
internal, it's private, it's psychological.
mm,
Um, it takes time. I was surprised when I was just interested with why people might feel depressed or
mm.
bored or go back to work or just be otherwise unfulfilled in retirement.
That is true. That's fascinating, because those are the things that you hear. And often, like I see it in articles or maybe YouTube videos, uh, that, there's always an article somewhere, I retired early, or I retired later, and then I got bored and I started working at Walmart, or, was doing something else. And, or you hear like, oh, they retired and then the next year they're dead. And it's
Yeah,
like,
because
yeah.
you have to you have to find your identity, your
Mm,
purpose, your sense of belonging outside of your job. And that's a lot of, for me, the process I'm going through is just looking inward, like revisiting some of the um, my things that I enjoyed, or revisiting what I thought I liked and maybe I didn't. Because if you think about it with work, there is you're almost you are provided an opportunity to not only do it early but get better at it. Like you have chores, then you
mm,
babysit, then you have an after school job, then you get a job after, college. And it's like, oh, don't worry about making money at that job. You can work any job, just get something. So you transition into the workforce, and then you're in there for several decades. And
yeah.
then for retirement, often you hear, do you have enough? And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people do have enough. Some people don't. Some people start late and they get enough, but that's just one component. So it's like, okay, now for the first time, you are in charge when you haven't been in a long time. When you haven't been, your schedule hasn't been set. Your
Mm,
if you don't have, like, even for me, I still have a teenager, a very young teenager, but not a toddler anymore. So a lot of my, sometimes you can be reminded of what you enjoy through your children. But if your children are grown, or you're an empty nester, you have to tap into yourself. Like, you have to dig deep and find your identity, find your purpose. And it takes some time. It takes a transition. You might have to do several things. But it definitely takes practice. At least that's what I'm finding. The things that I've identified that I enjoy, or what would make retirement fulfilling for me.
mm-hmm.
I want to be healthy. I want to be fit enough to enjoy being able to retire early and then living out some of my dreams. I want to, establish, I want a healthy relationship. I want to, but before I even go down, there's a lot of wants. I've documented them all, but before I even go down, that whole list, that's like surface, right? So then I
Yeah.
have to say, okay, um, you want to be healthy. How are you going to do that? Because when you look at statistics, it's like, what, 40 something percent of retirees say they're going to exercise more, and 30% exercise less. So
Wow.
it's like you have to practice that. So,
Mhm,
like, how am I going to practice it? Am I going to walk? Am I going to be in social circles conducive to that? That's my part of my fulfilling retirement. So it's, practicing just some of the things that I enjoy, and um, being okay with that, being okay with changing my mind, being okay with
mhm,
having, new experiences and learning new things that change my mind. And to me,
mhm,
that's like a big one. I think sometimes we don't even try new things, or we don't connect with new people because we're afraid of what might happen. You might find that you don't like some of the things that you were doing, or even um, your circle of influence might change. Like for
mhm,
me, I want my circle of influence I want to increase it, but I want to increase it with people who enhance my life, who have shared
mhm,
values.
mhm,
Because when through school, you have classmates, through work, you have colleagues, you have all these situations, even, your children's schoolmates, parents, of
Mhm.
friends you didn't pick. And now you're retired. So all the things, some of the things you get to pick now. You get to
Yeah.
take a beat and say, okay, like kind of flip FOMO to JOMO, like it's like fear of missing out, joy of missing out. It
Yeah.
may be things that you no longer want to do, or at least you get to decide what spaces you want to
Mhm.
be in. So a lot of this year, for me, and I'm sure in last year and into this year, since we're at the beginning
Mhm.
of the year, is just about kind of taking my time and
Mhm.
trying to transition into retirement, trying to do some of the things, practice doing some of the things that I want, that I really do want, and
Mhm.
I wasn't that good at, like, or I had excuses, I didn't,
Mm.
work out, I'm tired, I did homework, I did meetings went over, like all these different things, because I know I'm at a that chapter where your body starts turning on you, so it's like, do you want to skirt this opportunity where
Mhm.
you're a little bit younger than a lot of people who retire and not work on those things. And then now you've caught up to the average retirement age and you're in no better shape. You are in no better position health wise. So
Mhm.
for me, I'm learning. Like I said, I'm practicing. I'm doing some of the things. So one of the things that I like to do is, well, I just discovered is I like being outside. Well, I always liked being outside, but I had to, when I lived in Tennessee, I always had to like strap the bike up, go to the bike path. There was hardly any sidewalks. It was a whole hassle. So, and it cut into the time I was able to be out. Um,
Mhm.
I didn't know that I would enjoy hiking. So
Oh,
I've
wow.
started hiking and I have such peace doing it, and the views
Mhm.
are amazing. I mean, Portugal is a pretty cool place to learn and practice retirement, right? Or practice.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful place to do that. So I always wanted to, and my husband and I, we talk about this all the time, walking a Camino. Now we're in Portugal,
I've
but
been looking at
yeah.
that.
So we're in Portugal, but I mean, you got to walk first to
Yeah.
periods of time. So one of the things we did this year is we committed to 2024 miles. So
Hmm.
2024 miles this year. And I think it's just an average of five, a little bit over maybe 5.5 a day or something average. And of course, you may
Wow. I
not walk every
love
day.
that.
Yeah,
I
but you may not walk
love that.
every day, but it is it is a goal. It is
Mhm.
practice towards our fulfilling retirement. Things that because you know you can golf, you can, if that's your thing, you can volunteer. I think we can be busy to be busy, but I also
Mhm.
think that could have been the past chapters of our life, and I think this chapter could be
Mm.
a lot different.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
being in charge, so to speak, in more ways than I have been in the past. So I'm trying to
Mhm.
embrace that. I'm trying to just be realistic about it. I had read somewhere, like, this is one guy, I think he was a psychologist. He had practiced like transitioning into retirement for like 2 3 years. He was like going to the place he was going to move to, and doing all these different things. And it makes sense, right, to say, I'm going to do this. It's not just a date. It's a whole thing. So It's yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I am not in any way the expert. I'm making it fun. I'm setting goals. I am choosing, what do they say? You can choose what you want to bring forward and what you want to
Mhm,
leave. So, I write little lists for that. Like, there's some
mhm.
stuff I don't want to bring with me. I don't want to bring, collaboration is great. Competition, I'm not interested in it.
Yes, right?
So it's like you can, like, I'm not trying to bring some of the things that I didn't want before into
Mhm.
this chapter of my life. And then if I'm lucky, I had what, decades of working? I can have decades of a healthy retirement. It just is going to take work. I realize that, at least for the studies I read, or blogs I looked at, for people who were really enjoying their retirement and felt fulfilled, they looked inward. They,
Mhm.
sat with themselves. They did, you know, mindfulness exercises,
Mhm.
which I've tried, but that's one reason why I realized that I like walking and hiking, because and also painting. I went to like a sip and paint, and
I
it
heard you did paint and sip a few weeks ago.
yeah, and I didn't realize how my mind shut off. My mind shut. I really
Wow.
enjoyed it. My mind just kind of went blank. I am by no. I can paint by numbers. I mean, it looked amazing because it was an outline, but yeah, I'm realizing that those are some meditative things. So
Mhm.
if you can't clear your mind by just kind of sitting still and saying, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes, or maybe you've been trying to do that thing, you can find other things that might surprise you if you're open
Mhm.
to just new experiences, or just getting out of your comfort zone. Like, this whole conversation live is out of my comfort zone.
But you're
Oh,
doing great. I have to say, you're doing great.
but yeah, yeah, I think retirement can be fulfilling. It would be a shame to have had all this structure and felt
Mhm.
at times where I had to do the necessary, or I
Mhm.
had to do the thing I was supposed to do for this particular outcome, and
Mhm.
then not examine and put some time into this transition, and it takes somewhat of a beat to just, to just not only enjoy it, but give myself a break. Like, even with the language, like, I'm in Portugal, and I do good with my Amazon packages, or
Oh, you figured
like,
that out.
I
Okay.
started to know those different things, if I, and but then I also remember, like,
Mhm.
if I was 1 years old, how much would I be expected to be talking and
Yeah.
learning and knowing so I said, I'm gonna give myself to 5. I'm gonna give, I'm gonna give myself uh I'm going to transition into a new country and a new
Yeah.
place, and then, into, and
Pressuring.
embrace this change. And at 1 years old, I would probably know how to feed myself, and I can feed myself. I would probably know how to go, not even know how to go to the bathroom. So that's a plus, right? I can go to the bathroom.
Right.
So there are some of those things, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think for me, I'm just spending a lot of time, and just trying to really sit with it, and not, and give it the just thought that it deserves. Like, it's a big transition to go from
Yeah.
working to not working. Um,
At
and
all.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
like you thought, it's interesting. You said a lot of interesting things I kind of want to circle back a little bit on is you talked about structure.
Yeah.
And I love the analogy where you're talking about the language and being, 1 years old, all the way to 5 in terms of language. But it made me think when you mentioned that, we go to school, some people go to pre-K, right? Some started at
Mhm. Mhm.
kindergarten. You go all the way to high school, maybe you go on to college or grad school, you start working. You've been in a structured environment decades.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone either, and in those decades, probably let me finish the thought, is in those decades, you were learning things, people were shaping and molding your environment, how you think about things. To your point, the people that you interact with, you couldn't really, have a lot of intention around
Control.
that,
Yeah,
decision
yeah.
making and control. And so, and also, I talk about it on the podcast, right? America keeps you on this hamster wheel, and in doing so, right, you get fixated on, your title and your salary and these, external factors, that performance reviews, right? Goal setting for the year beginning and all this, a year end activity. And so at best, you might get a little break if you're taking a vacation or the last 2 weeks of the year, when everybody's distracted with holiday parties and such. And very little time, free time to think, like, what
Yeah.
do I want? And I talk about it on the show, and I've talked about it on here, living life by design and not by default.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you're approaching your early retirement, because what I hear is a lot of intentionality, not just with how you want to move forward, but a lot of reflection on, okay, this is what was here in the preceding chapters. And now I get to write my own story. I have this blank page, right? This
Yeah.
blank book, and I get to write it. And so, what are the pieces that I want to bring in here? What is the space that I want to leave open for new opportunities? And then another thing that really was helpful for me as you're beginning to, is there's inspiration and then there's inspired action. And so you talked about like health and wanting these things as you started to design your early retirement, but then also, like I said, turning inward and saying, okay, well, what does that look like in practice? And not to be like critical of yourself, like if you don't do the 5 miles, but to
Yeah.
say, okay,
Set a goal, right.
yeah, have a goal, but then also like those checkpoints. Like, how are you going to
Mhm.
hold yourself accountable to that end, so that, to your earlier point, like you don't look at, starting at early retirement and then getting to traditional retirement age and then having not even achieved that or even made any measurable steps toward that. So I love that, like, blew my mind. So interestingly, I want to kind of go back a little bit, is you talked about your benefits career, the lessons that you learned from other people's experience. And some people might be watching this and saying like, wow, like, how did you get to a point where you didn't want to be on that path, that you're like, oh, I've got to take, required minimum distributions at like 70? How did you get to a point, or maybe what were the decision points that helped you realize like, hey, you know what? I want to do this now. I can do this now. I'm going to do this now.
Is that so? Is your question about retiring a year early?
Yeah, like you deciding to retire early. Like what made you, because you're what, 48 now?
I am 49.
49? That's right.
Yeah,
You
I'll be
doing
50.
well.
I'll be 50 at the end of this year. I just turned 49. It's been, I don't know, a month.
Oh,
Month
49,
and a half.
549, 549.
Yeah, right. It hasn't been long. You know what? Because so I had already, so at the math, I guess it
Mhm.
was, so I had already started to save and invest. I saved and invested, not necessarily knowing what I was investing in early on.
Mm.
And it's funny too, because I remember being a single mom and being a little bit embarrassed by just having my 401k and not a savings outside of my 401k. But I was investing 13%. I didn't make a lot of money. I would invest all my, I was the person who introduced me to investing. Um, had always told me to like invest to the company match. And then every time I got a raise to just kind of add that raise on top of it. And I had been doing that. That doesn't mean I was necessarily in the lowest fee kind of plans. I learned all that stuff kind of later on. But, for 20s, I was investing consistently, but it didn't leave me a lot to take care of my son, pay the rent, and all those different things. And I wasn't heavy in debt or anything, but I did use credit cards, and I didn't always pay them off, the same month. Credit kind of made me uncomfortable, so I did have I would break it up into fours or whatever, so that because I had that whole, complex where, my son's never going to come home and the lights aren't on, so you have that, that I had that discipline, and it probably made me an old lady too, because I always say like all my friends are older, and it's like I mesh well with them. Or it could just be, time spent with my grandmother. Generations were different, so, and I'm not mad about it, but yeah, so I did some of that, and then, fast forward to I'm married. My son has a bonus dad, and fast forward, I have another child. But my husband and I, we always wanted to retire. I said 52 is a max that I would work, and then he said 55 was the max he would work. And so we were looking spreadsheets and different things like that. He's into spreadsheets. I'm totally not. I'm just like I'm into bottom lines, but he had like put the mortgage in there and when would be a good year to sell and all this different stuff. But long story short, at first we realized we needed to like crank up our savings, because I was like, well, this might not happen at 52, and that's my drop dead. Like, I hate for you to have to get two jobs. I was like joking, but kind of serious. It's all I have in me. 52 is all I have in me. So, but yeah. Anyway, we got to where everything was automated. We weren't keeping any debt or anything like that. So it was always we had got ourselves to a position that we both could have retired.
Nice.
But what we wanted was to do things again in stages. So since he had the opportunity to move over with his US employer is Global, so to move over in his current book of business was the EU, we took that. And then he's like, I'll do that for a couple years, and I will either advance or I will retire. So yeah, but it was just it was a plan, and but it wasn't. I think we got serious a few years back when we realized that we could be short, like we might not make it. So at least so you have your number that you want to be at, all of that. So then we decided to move to another country, which you don't really know. Like that having one job is a comfort. So
yes.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. And even this whole transition into retirement, because he's doing it with me. He's like, yeah, I get to practice too, because he has more flexibility and more vacation days and more, just less stress with
Mm.
actual taking time off. Everybody does it. I mean, I think the leadership that he's closely aligned to is in UK. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
UK. And he's here, but he's not assigned to Portugal. He's assigned to the region. And
Mm.
everybody, like, it's nothing for him. We're going to Galapagos Islands in a month. And he just took the time. It's like the internet isn't good there. We're going for a little bit over, well, a little bit under 2 weeks, 13 days. And yeah, I'm excited. It's one of those, yeah, it's one of those trips we always wanted to do. So, but he's getting that practice that I kind of discovered that a lot of people do. We're getting to do that together, but I'm also getting to do some things myself because I went first. Um, and I wonder, it probably would be different if we went at the same time, because
Mhm.
now everything's shared, and you talked about just finding your individualism and doing things. Are you doing things because, you know, he wants to do it, or are you doing things that you want to do? So, that can get, those are questions that are easily answered when it's just you, and you can, kind of sit with yourself and start to know what makes you feel good. What type of even social settings make you feel good, or what, like you said, were, I think we forget sometimes that we will be at a place and it might be a work event, or it may be, something for a colleague or something. And then you get in the car and it's like, man, I really didn't want to go to that. But you felt like you had to, or it may have been a case where you had to for networking purposes, or something like that. So I'm I'm really trying to be intentional.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be intentional as best I can
Mhm.
about, am I, if I had pleaser type habits, am I bringing that
Mm.
in? Like, I don't want to bring that in. And it's not that I'm kind. I'm not saying that, I
Yeah.
don't.
No, I love that. Like, talk about
You
that
know,
part because, like, as a reformed people pleaser,
sure.
right? It's interesting because you really have to have a level of self-awareness,
Hmm.
and then also, right, to know that that's your like default behavior. But then, how do you kind of like make sure you're gut checking that?
Yeah. Practice. You may not always I mean, you may not, you may find yourself in a circumstance that afterwards you're like, ah, I did that because I just wanted to make the other person happy, or the majority was doing it. And that's something that I just did it, and that's okay, I think. It also, it's okay to like pick something. I think when you're transitioning to retirement, that you have all these options. And
Mhm.
it seems like we could get all bogged down into feeling like we need to be productive,
Mhm.
almost like self, awareness and love, and looking inward, and just meditation and self-care is not productive. So it's almost like
Mm.
a mind shift too. Like, do you think it's not productive? Like, do I think it's not productive to sit on this bench and read this book? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, does it
or,
matter
you
what
know,
someone else would think about what you're doing, or does it matter more about how you feel
how
about
you
what you're
feel
doing or
doing
not
it.
doing, right? Like,
Yeah.
where does that tape come from, right? That might be playing that.
Yeah.
And I think it's last week when I was talking to the audience and I talked about deconditioning.
Mm.
And it's this period of deconditioning and deconstructing. It's like, okay, where did that thought come from? And then why am I internalizing it? Why am I still carrying it with me? How do I release it
Absolutely.
and let it go?
It's a rewiring process. I
Yeah.
feel like it's, you know, it's
Mhm.
just, that's why I always say, like, when people are like, how's it going? I'm like, I'm still practicing, you know, like,
Mhm.
or, you know, like maybe I didn't do, you know, what I planned to do a day before. I'm like, man, I forgot to practice yesterday. Or, you know, like I make a thing out of it because it really is practice. And one of the things that I feel wholeheartedly is if you don't have a good foundation, that's where the unfulfillment comes in. So I
Mm.
know, like, over time, like I might engage in a passion project. It may be something I never have done before, or it might be something I always wanted to do, but I know that it has to overlay with my fulfilling retirement. It can't
Mm.
conflict with it. You know, it won't be, I can't do the fulfilling things because now I'm doing this project, or I can't, you know, that's just not, I rather do the work now, do the practice now. I'm enjoying it anyway, you know? and um, and then I think those other things will come, because it's just it's a huge transition, and I think it is probably, I think you talked about the conditioning we have. It is
Mhm.
really easy to feel like, even volunteering, like I could make it a job, you know?
Mhm.
So, because you're told, like, yeah, I volunteered my time throughout my life. I volunteer my time. You
Mhm.
know, I have done things for free just because I wanted to do the thing for free. You know, so there's different things that it's in you anyway, but then you let people tell you, like, what are you gonna do? You know, are you gonna, you know, do Meals on Wheels? Are you gonna volunteer at the library? Are you gonna? And it's like, you really do have to determine, like, do you want to do those things
Mhm.
that are under, you know, retirement, or do you want to take a beat and decide what you want your retirement to look like?
Yeah, and on your own timeline, right? Because it's not
Absolutely.
like a switch that you flip and it's like, okay, I'm retired. And then, like I said, oh, I'm doing the hiking, I'm traveling everywhere. Like all these things are at the same time. Like you need to
Yeah.
take a beat because you've come out of decades of structure and identity and performance and how do you say this so that it's
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. The people pleasing comes from the fact that you always have to like contort yourself right to can't give feedback in a way that's too negative, right? So you're always trying to like shifting and softening, and so now it's like, okay, I'm in the driver's seat. I get to decide what it is that I want to do with my life and my time, and in order to do that it takes time. And so to
It
your
takes
point,
so
like
much time.
self-care is like, hey, I'm just sitting for a couple months or days or whatever and just
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
with myself, right? That in and of
Again,
itself
you raise a
is
good point, because it's like one of the things I don't want. Like, I don't want to bring it with me, like, the need to be accepted, the need to be
mm,
acknowledged, it need to be popular, you know, like all
yeah.
the, you know, I just want to be Tadassi. Like, I just want to be like whoever that is, you know, like, so it's again, you have these lists, and like you said, it's gone on a long time. It's, trying
Mhm.
to be an overachiever at school, or trying to be, the best parent, or the not the best parent, because we that's trial and error, but engaged, engaged, and and all these other different things, even outside of work. So when you get a chance to just be you, you got to step back and say, okay, let me take a look and revisit who that is,
Mhm.
and try, just clarify what I what I like, what I
Yeah.
want out of retirement. And
Mhm.
work, didn't we, get better at it over time? We did, like, we got better at it over time. So I'm like, with retirement, you get better at it over time, get better at the exercise, at the health, at the nutrition, at um, all of it, the relationships. One of the things that I realized is, I really, I had to write down, I wanted to shrink my circle of concern, because,
Mhm.
there are people, that I had in my life who weren't, positive, or encouraging, or weren't really, and to me, adding, maybe I would say they were counseling from a place of fear. So
Mhm.
it's like, you don't want, you want less of that and more of, you know, values that align, people who enhance your life, other, but just you're in a positive place, you're doing different things, that there's going to be a transition period, or there's going to be some loss with, especially moving, to a new place. But I think the retirement too, it forces you to look and say, did I have these people in my life because I worked a job with them? Maybe the only thing you had in common with them was the job.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah.
it's a
You got the
difficult thing
proof.
after, yeah, because we hold on, it's a difficult thing. Sometimes you hold on for decades. You don't even work that job anymore, and you're still,
Yes.
talking to the person, and maybe there's some emotional baggage there, or baggage from the
Mhm.
past, that now it's like, okay, how
You
do
can
you
let that
release
go.
that? Yeah,
'Cause
you release
when
that
it's
graciously, not
interesting.
to, stress yourself out. But some of this stuff, we don't have to carry. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's so funny that you said that, because I think back to last year in preparation for the move, and doing similar thought process about, okay, going through, and it took a good year because I wanted to be intentional about it. And I went through like my Facebook, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, and really like, okay, if I see this name, is something coming up, right?
yeah,
And if something came up, then that disappeared. And even when I looked at like professional relationships on LinkedIn, right, people that you worked with 15, 20 years ago, and it's like, oh well, you never know if you might need a, or you never know. And it's like, no, I know.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I need to.
Most of
No,
the time we know, right?
it's okay. I'm not doing another resume, not doing another performance review, no goal
It's
setting,
pulling from the
nothing.
past. It's pulling from
Yeah,
the past. That chapter is over. This is a
yeah.
chapter. Yes, it's a little difficult because
Mhm.
we get to define it ourselves, but we get to change our mind. We get to change our
Yeah.
mind. We get to do multiple things. We started early, so we could potentially have the same number of retirement years that we had of working years. It
Yeah,
could be amazing, but it does take some intention. Some
it does, because
intention.
go ahead, finish your thought, please.
Um, and just some, just looking inward. I think it's hard. We have people to blame sometimes. I
Mm,
probably did play devil's advocate a little bit with myself and try to, maybe judging myself in circumstances that I shouldn't have, because
mm,
I do like to be accountable. But I'm sure there were times where it's like I can blame this job or this person or
mm,
this, and now it's, okay, blame game is over.
mm,
And it's on you to map this out and practice some of these things and try all the things. And if you don't enjoy it, you can change it. But just the perspective is,
mm.
has to change. Or
Yeah.
it's just a lot of it. Like work, I don't feel like my identity was wrapped up in work, but of course it was. I mean, I worked for a lot of years. It may not have been the particular jobs, but it was, even if, just seeing something and thinking like, wow, that's not professional, you know,
Mm.
who cares if it's professional? You know what I'm saying? So like different things like that. I'm sure that this exercise is necessary for me. I would tell anyone, to gift it to themselves, to really,
Mm.
you give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to transition, to enjoy it, and not make permanent decisions or make decisions, and give yourself permission to change your mind. So don't be caught up in, oh, I was doing this last year, I'm not doing it this year. Because you don't want to do it this year. And it's okay. You're retired. You could do something
Yeah.
else, So yeah.
Be gentle with yourself. It's
Yeah.
definitely, because so many times, and I say this, from my places, uh, sometimes we're unkind to ourselves
Very.
and very self-critical, and that negative self-talk, and and either about something you're doing, something you're not doing, or like you said earlier, the the thief of joy is, right, it's comparison. And so, oh, I should be like this person, or this person's my age or younger than me and they're doing this, and so who's to say, right? And so when you take a step back and you ask yourself, where are these thoughts coming from? Are these thoughts serving me? Then you start to build the muscle to quiet that inner critic.
Yeah.
And then your intuitive self becomes, in your authentic self,
Yeah.
becomes the
Are
louder.
these thoughts even mine? I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to trace back the source of your understanding. You trace
Yeah.
back, and it's not even like, this isn't even your idea. This isn't even what you wanted to do. This isn't
Mhm.
even accurate. You're repeating information that's incorrect. So, it's really important, because, again, one of the things from the past was, we had to jump on the bandwagon,
Mhm.
especially in corporate, of all these different things that you didn't necessarily agree with.
Yes.
Or you thought, or you might not be you might not be adaptable to change. And
Hmm.
then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, like you're probably pretty adaptable, and you probably are flexible to change. It may not have been a good idea.
Hmm.
So, but that was out of your control. And now, some of it, at least a lot of it, is in our control today. So we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun doing it.
Yes.
We're gonna
Yes.
have fun practicing.
Yes, practicing is the part that is like most important, right? Um, and now being, I don't even know, like a month in almost, it's
Yeah.
like, I like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's like, I like this. And
That's
it's
great.
interesting because I had to do a lot of preparation mentally and shifting my mindset. And part of that was, taking in and digesting content that was aligned with the decision that I know I wanted to make.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
me, it was like digesting, content around early retirement. And then one of the biggest hurdles for me, and I was actually having this conversation earlier with Malcolm, was shifting my mindset from being in this like consistent, investing and getting to a goal, right? And
Mhm.
then like going from squirreling money away and investing to now spending
Yeah,
down and being comfortable with that number not always going up. And
absolutely.
that
They
was a
and they say there's a guy, I can't even think of his name, but he says you have enough money, you need a better plan. And I
mhm.
always, it always kind of sticks in my head because, first of all, you're agile, you're flexible. I know there's a lot of fear mongering, and I'm not saying like, yep, we got to feed ourselves. We have to prepare for the future. But I mean, some of this finance information, it's like, yeah, if you count inflation, you need 100,000, a
10
year.
million, 10
It's like
million to
ridiculous
retire.
numbers. Like like if that was the scenario, then people would probably eat less. With some of the
Mhm.
numbers that they, that's an exaggeration, but it's like, dude, like nobody's gonna go from if they're saying like, oh, I was gonna spend, 45,000 and now you're like, oh, in 10 years that's 115,000, so you need to account for that. And so it is you could go down a rabbit hole, and
Yes.
you can save and invest a lot, like way more than you need, and still have an unfulfilled retirement because you forgot that there's emotional components. There
Yeah.
are, there's all of these different psychological components that you have to be prepared to retire. You have to re-identify yourself outside of your work. So you have all the money and you're bored, or you're depressed, and that's not to say, yeah, and some people are tired, so you may just be like, I don't even want to sleep because it might look like okay, you've been working like 12 hours a day. Like, I think you could sleep a little bit. So, but
Yeah.
it's again that self awareness, just understanding that my retirement may not look like someone else's retirement, and
Mhm.
understanding that finances is not the only component, which is
Yeah.
why, we have a lot of people who they they go so long, so they have more than enough, they're well into their 60s, and now they don't feel like they were able to give themselves the opportunity to work on their health. They don't feel
Mhm.
some of the things that was on their list, they kind of took it off, they don't have any interest, the chapter has passed.
Yeah.
'Cause there's definitely chapters in our lives where we'll do XYZ, and then, in the next chapter, I don't have any interest in that. I just had hip surgery. I got to get my knee replaced, or,
Mhm.
different things like that. It happens.
Yeah.
So if you only focus on the money, you may go way too long, longer than you need to. And then you
Mhm.
also may just be unfulfilled in retirement because now, especially if you're a very physical person, like maybe you're into sports, and, there's some amazing things that you probably could do, if you retire younger. But
Yeah.
you wait until later, it's like, some of the other things don't interest you.
Yeah. The mind
And
might be okay, but the body's not willing.
yeah,
And I've talked about it before, there's also diseases of the mind, right? That can
yeah,
happen and nobody has a crystal ball. So one of the books that really helped me get over that challenge in this past year was I listened to the audiobook. It's A Die with Zero.
I read
And I
that.
heard about it on different podcasts and things. And, I'm definitely, of course, as a podcaster, digesting more content, like, visually or audio through audio. And so I downloaded the audiobook, and it really helped with my thinking because essentially, it's recognizing that some things, to your point, are very time bound in life.
Yeah,
And when that window passes, right, you might not have that level of enjoyment or fulfillment. Like everything has like a set, an optimal period in life.
absolutely.
We human beings as women, right? We have an optimal period should we choose to bear children, right? There's certain things in life in general are time bound. And so that really helped me with my thinking of, yes, I can do it. And yes, this is okay. And yes, this is enough. And not to worry about tomorrow because I spent a lot of time always being like a forward thinker. And one of the things I had to start telling myself was like, oh, you know what? That's not a today problem. Right. So anytime I
Yeah,
would get
yeah.
into the habit of, time jumping and, 5, 10 years. It was like, nope, Sean, that's not a today problem, and then ground myself in the present.
Because you've often people like you're neglecting you. So
Yes.
a lot of people feel like they're like, man, I wish I would have went earlier because I neglected me. But I didn't, I worked so much. I had so many jobs. I bought the things. I couldn't use the things. I,
Mhm.
it got out of control, which happens to all of us. I get it.
Mhm.
Um, but again, we have to just stop. And when we're on this, when we have the wherewithal to think about finances, then I think we should also be thinking about the rest. So, okay, when I have enough, what does it look like? What am I going to do? Because it just can't
Mhm.
be um, museums if you, and that's a bad one for me because I love museums, but
Me
it
too.
or if it's not, if you're not into museums, like I get it. It's like, I don't really know how to golf unless you count what the little mini golf. So that maybe it's golfing for me. It wouldn't be like, oh yeah, like yeah, I'll do that a couple times, but I don't know if I that would be my retired life.
Mhm.
But yeah, so okay, if it's not that, then what is it? Because it doesn't have to be, I don't golf. So, I'm gonna go back and work part-time, or like I'm
Mhm.
gonna I don't know, be a greeter at Walmart or something. Like there
Mhm.
has to be, that pendulum is swinging too far, like it's going back too far. It's
Mhm.
like there has to be a balance between it, but it's self-discovery
Mhm.
and it's a chapter of our lives that nobody's going to figure it out for us. So that's just,
That's so true.
that's kind of the bottom line. Nobody's going to figure it out for us. Nobody's going to say, okay, you've earned it. You deserve this time. Work on yourself,
Mhm.
because what's in it for them?
Yeah, and
After
nobody's gonna
all the
save
things that
you.
we were
You
doing,
have to
right?
save you.
All the things we were doing, it was something in it for, for us to be efficient or, you
Mhm.
know, meet expectations.
Yeah. But there's interesting that you said because something you said a couple times is, knowing when there's enough. And that's been something that I've been reflecting on as of late. Because when we talked about like signaling and conditioning and things like that, is I believe in the US, we are never taught or allowed to feel enough. The
Yeah,
yardstick always moves, right? And
absolutely.
so we do it to ourselves, right? We're in companies or wherever you work, and you may hit a target. Then, oh, you know what? Next year we're gonna move that by 15%,
Yeah,
50%,
yeah.
whatever, right? Like,
Keeps moving.
oh, we had a great revenue year. Okay, we're gonna 2x that. Like, there's never such a thing as enough. You go to the grocery store, there's the endless, or online, right? Shopping, online shopping is the endless aisle, right? When I would do e-commerce, we talk about digital marketing, like Amazon is the endless aisle, right? You're not confined by what you see in the stores. And so there's always this, the psychology of marketing, right? Is, there's never a thing as being satiated, right? So we're
Absolutely.
and you even see it in how we eat, right? There's
Yeah.
supersize and more of this and this is and more, and we're
Mhm.
always hearing messages, whether we're conscious of it or not, inundated with this. You're never satisfied. There's never enough. And so when you look at, you know, one car, why one car when we can have two, or two
Yeah,
houses,
yeah.
and why this when there's more. That's why there's, like, every time you turn around, there's another storage facility, because there's so much that you have in your house. Christmas time, you
Right,
just bought
right.
a bunch of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
12 months ago,
Multiple
but
trees.
yeah, we're gonna buy more stuff to bring in. And so, I mean, look, we had accountability group last night, right? What are people talking about when they want to move abroad? Oh my gosh, I got to declutter, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
all of this, like, consumption, and either filling places or feeding into expectations, and again, never knowing when there's enough. But there is a
Yeah.
period, and if I guess the opportunity is training your brain, or being conscious of the signals that come in, and starting to say, you know what, I'm not expecting anymore for society or all these other external things outside of me to tell me when it's enough. I need to now decide for myself when that line is. And once you start to have control over that, that's when you can make the decision to step away from the table, right? To step out of the cubicle and say, this is enough. Like, could I
Absolutely.
go for another title? Could I go for a higher salary? Could I go for whatever that is, right? Work another year, oh, I can save for my move abroad another year. I even contemplated that. But what helped me be accountable was this platform, because I had said in 2020 that
Really
2023
was it for
was
you?
going to be my year, right? Like, I had said it to myself in 2017 when I went to New Zealand, but I said it publicly in 2020. So I had to hold
Yeah.
myself accountable, because the people that are listening to the show and coming on the platform, they're like, look, girl, it's 2023. What we doing?
Yeah, yeah. And if you think about it, every we're always told when to stop, even things that we enjoy. So, if you
Mm,
enjoy, I don't know, summer camp, there's an end date. If you liked your college years, there's an end date.
yeah.
There's an end date for a lot of things that you enjoy, but you're told when to stop. So you might enjoy work and making money or whatever, but you have to, there are some things, the way the system is set up, that
Mhm.
you're not going to be told when to stop. So
Yeah.
you can keep, it's going to be up to you. And it's just, that's the way it is. But so I think that's why some people, they enjoy what they do. Does that mean that they should necessarily do that until they die? Probably not. But nobody's telling them to stop. And
Yeah.
they're wondering, like,
Mhm.
why should I stop? I won't have anything to do. There's no self-reflection. And it's a way, but for me, I mean, I think I share with you, like, my aunt passed 10 days before her 60th birthday.
Oh my gosh.
So um, I'm not team work until like, it's
Mhm.
not, like, you're not going to get that from me anyway. So I think that's
Yeah.
why the psychology of it all is really interesting to me and
Mhm.
intriguing to me, and I embrace a lot of the tips, and I'm trying to do the work because I want to be fulfilled. I don't think just working until you die is that's not it, at least not for me. And so, but I know that there's
A
still
job title on your
self-care and
tombstone.
discovery to make my own retirement fulfilling. So I know that work is there, but yeah, I'm not. I didn't love it that much. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's like, okay, tried it, didn't like it, 4 out of 10, don't recommend.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And realistically, it's like nobody's going to put your job title on your tombstone. And
They
so
won't. They
you can
won't.
be fixated on title and, you know, company and accolades and awards. And it's like, I've gotten awards, right? Like industry recognitions and things like that. And, you know, things that I was proud of, but they don't define me of who I am. There are things I achieved, sure, but they aren't things that define who I am as a person, right? I
Right,
don't lead with those things. I lead
right,
with the spirit I have in my heart, the compassion that I have for people, the creativity that I have, and understanding that there's a dynamic aspect of my personality, like that I'm not just one thing. And so
yeah.
that's what I want to continue to explore and examine and not be beholden to what I did in the past, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's brave. I mean, I think it is. It's so easy to. It's almost like how if you're used to abuse, often
Mm,
people end up in the same types of situations. Because they haven't kind of done the work or are not aware, that I might be giving off these cues. And that's not um, right. I don't, I'm not condoning that at all. I'm just using that as an extreme example of where it's like, okay, I might need to do something different, self reflect, become aware, how am I approaching relationships? Am I being
mhm.
honest with myself? Am I trying to, I don't know, and do I want someone different from who I am? They always say like, you got to be the person you want to date or to marry
Mhm.
or to become, even retiree, right? They say, you have to. It takes practice. You have to at some point begin to do the things, to be the person, to pursue the opportunities, the new, to try the new things out. So
Mhm. Yeah, and you have, and it was interesting when I was at your house. That's when I learned like that you bake,
yeah,
and
I love to bake.
I know that about you. And then you're sharing, you know, the beautiful pictures of. I mean, look, y'all. I mean, you're already, I'm sure, like blown away by Tadassi, but she can bake like these amazing creations, and it's interesting, like, have you, as you've been like exploring and getting to know you, has it allowed you to either embrace more of that side, or does it have like its place? Like, where does that come into play?
Well, I probably embraced it a little bit more than I should have over these last holidays. But yeah, so I really enjoy baking. I do. I enjoy cooking, but baking, it is a happy place. I
Mm.
like I never really liked dessert or cake. And I realized from experimenting and trying different recipes that it was dry, or the
Mm.
frosting tastes like Crisco or something. So it was specific things about the cake that I didn't like. It wasn't necessarily that I didn't enjoy cake.
Mhm.
So, um, I started baking, I started selling baking goods, and I just did it off referral only. And, I don't think I naively not realizing that referrals turn into referrals and those referrals turn into referrals. I don't think, you're like, oh, I'm just going to do referral only because I don't want this to get out of control. That's what I was thinking. So I enjoyed it a lot. I had to buy a stand mixer here, which I held off for some months because I'm not looking to recreate my life in that I had in the US. But there are some joys that I'm definitely not looking to leave behind. You know what I'm saying? But I had all
Yes.
the appliances. I had all the commercial equipment. I had commercial stove, refrigerator, pans. I was
Oh my
particular about
God.
the pans, cupcake scoopers, cake pop holders, just anything, airbrush machine, anything you can think of. I had, so I knew I wasn't going to, that chapter was closed, but that didn't mean,
Mm.
and again, through self-awareness, through just kind of sitting with myself, determining or realizing what I miss, I was like, I'm going to have to break down and buy a stand mixer, and it has to be able to do handle dough because I make homemade cinnamon rolls and breads
Mm.
and stuff like that. So I need something that can knead, or I won't have to worry about like fitness because that'll be my arms will be in really good shape. But so I enjoy baking enough that I've started to bake more.
Mhm.
And I've been asked like, oh, like maybe you should do that here. I don't, at least at this time, want to monetize everything I love because
Mm.
then I don't have the joy. Now I'll bake. You don't have to twist my arm to bake you some cupcakes or to bake whatever. I bake just because I'll bake just because I'm going to visit someone and take a
Mhm.
bake good or so it gives me joy. It's one of those things I do enjoy doing it, but I don't think I would want to do it on this. I don't think I would want to make it work because I don't know that it would be as joyous. I mean, I was still working full time when
Yeah.
the business took off. And, sometimes I had 2, 3 cakes a weekend. But, sometimes I didn't. And I do think about my baking in as an analogy with this whole like early retirement too, because I used to tell people all the time, they said, oh, you do these custom cakes and, but the cupcakes and the cake pops are what people buy
Mhm.
regularly. So that's usually in any bakery, kind of what keeps your business going or what,
Mhm.
even in the downtime or when there's not a milestone, an anniversary or birthday or graduation or something like that, people are
Mhm.
usually still ordering cupcakes. So
Mhm.
that's I'm like at that cupcake phase of retirement. That's my, I'm not at the like custom cake part, but it's still good, right? I'm still enjoying it, and so yeah. But I do love baking. Thank you so much for asking, and I it is one of those things I would do for free if I was supplying the ingredients because I'm picky about everything being homemade, so it can get expensive. And I
Yeah.
think that was another thing too with my cakes. I might have been one of the few, like at least in the for the people who were ordering from me who had ordered from
Mhm.
other people who did everything from scratch. So my frostings and my cake and everything.
Mhm.
Often those cakes look nice and pretty, but they're box cakes. So
Mm.
yeah, that was another reason. But so yeah, I do love it enough to do for free, but I would probably not because that's pretty
Wow.
generous. So yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy, I wouldn't say love, I enjoy baking. It was easier when I had, my two chickadees in the nest
Yeah.
and, had my list of stuff when I was, was planning the move and, what I would replace like
Mhm.
here, and I had my KitchenAid for, decades. And I got here and I was like, yeah, but I don't like it is just me. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, I was even like, well, there's cafes,
mhm,
there's croissants, there's,
yeah.
coffee,
Mhm.
right around the corner, right down the street. And so I tried to get away with that too, but it's just, I mean, some of the traditions too, because I still have
Yeah.
Drew. So we
Yeah.
make these molasses ginger cookies every
Ooh,
year, and we decorate cookies every year. So we do
nice.
cookies, and we've been doing it forever. And
Mhm,
I didn't do it this year. Maybe I'll do it next year. But
mhm.
I used to make homemade gingerbread houses, individual ones, and
Oh,
then I would
wow.
have a little party just with an intimate group, and we would all decorate our gingerbreads. We would put them together, but the gingerbread was totally edible,
Wow.
probably organic,
Yeah.
but so some of those things we were used to, and then it was
Mhm.
Christmas, and we had decided not to travel at first. We were thinking about it, and we traveled quite a bit this year. So we just said, you know what, let's just spend it here. And I'm glad we did, because Portugal has so much to offer, so many beautiful places to
Oh
see.
my goodness, yes.
So I'm glad, I'm happy we stayed, but I realized that that meant like, oh, I gotta put a tree up, and I have to, um, we have to decorate cookies, and we've decorated cookies even in an Airbnb. I would remember to bring the
Wow.
cookie cutters and bake
Yeah.
the cookies and get every powdered sugar, everything, even when we were nomading. So it's just one of those things that I guess that's a mommy in me, you want to keep that going. So yeah, the mixer, I had to get it, but I won't. I struggle because I have two mixers at my mom's house.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Two
my
mixers
mixer.
at my mom's house. Same thing with the juicer, but
Oh,
I
wow.
need fresh vegetable juice. It's a part of my,
Mm,
I feel good.
mhm,
It's just a part. I made it a part of my health journey. So I'm
mhm.
like, I'm not going to get a NAMA. I'm not going to replace, and I kind of hate that I paid the money for it. But I love that juicer. And
Yeah.
now I have a knockoff one. It looks just like it,
Oh.
but it is not a NAMA. But yeah, it gets the job done. And
Mhm.
so yeah, but so I had to do the juicer and the mixer and some other stuff. I haven't broken down and did a food processor because I'm like, okay, you can cut, but if I and Melvin's often my sous chef, but
Aw.
yeah, yeah, but when he's not and I'm cutting, I'm like, man, if I had a food processor, it's like one onion, and I'm acting like, I'm so used to, I'm cutting one onion up, and I'm so used to not have, just being able to dice and put it in the food processor, post it a couple times, and go down this way or that way. So, yeah, matter of fact, I made some gumbo,
Ooh.
and I was cutting up that celery and onions and stuff, and Melvin, so this is interesting. I made it after Thanksgiving, and
Mm.
Thanksgiving was one of those holidays where I had a tough time.
Oh.
Yeah, I had not just um and I was thinking about like all my notes about, just emotional support, and
Mm.
um I pulled myself out of it, but it's not a thing so much here
Yeah.
that my husband had colleagues visiting. So, he went into the office, which he doesn't do usually, and it was on Thanksgiving, and just getting the text messages from like the tone deaf, like some even people I hadn't heard from. I was just kind of feeling some kind of way, like, do these people even know me? Like, do they even know like that their Thanksgiving isn't a thing? Like,
Mhm.
I got I was a little melancholy, and I just maybe because, and we've had Thanksgiving by ourselves, where we didn't visit family. So it wasn't that. And I hadn't planned to cook. I was waiting on my sage and poultry seasoning
Yeah.
that was on delivery.
Oh,
Yeah, so I hadn't really
good old
planned.
Amazon.
Yeah, so it wasn't, well, no, a friend was in the United States, so they were waiting.
Oh, wow.
The sage I had ordered from the UK, but the
Mm.
poultry season and gumbo filet, that was like on its way. So I was just like, oh, I'll make some stuff, over the weekend or next week or whatever. But I don't know what it was in it, but I had the wherewithal to know, like, this is why you need emotional support. And this is why you need someone to call or bounce things off of. And,
Mhm.
this is why it's important to make sure like your circle of influence is strong,
Yeah.
you have, because I didn't necessarily, and there probably were some people that I
Mhm.
can call, but I put up the tree. I didn't want to be like too like down, because Drew was here and it wasn't any school, because his school is international, but a lot
Mm.
of the scheduling seems to be US based, even though a
Ah.
lot of the children are in Asia and in the US, but
Mm.
and some in Europe too. But yeah, so I was like, well, let's put up the tree, and we did that, and that got him excited. And I'm like, we're gonna do some, watch a movie or whatever. But yeah, that was one of the I hadn't had any feelings like that.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the day,
Mhm.
and actually, I expected that around my birthday.
Mm.
And I was so surprised. Like, I wanted, even at my birthday dinner, I wanted to, say something, like say a speech, or say thank the people. I was so freaking overwhelmed. Like, I was so grateful, that I knew people, and like people that I actually talked to, and the people that I would want to be at my birthday were at my birthday and seemed to enjoy themselves, and they liked the food, and so those things kind of concern me. But I was like I couldn't believe, and I had good friends. They spent the night, and it was a great birthday, and I really thought I would miss my mom, and which I do every day, but it wasn't Thanksgiving. I'm like, wow, I'm really surprised,
Mm.
um,
Mhm.
but in a pleasant way,
Yeah.
that I had such a good time, and doing I guess, also doing something that I like to do. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't wanna, I'm low key, sorta, I can have fun, but if I'm not low key, it's probably more a 2, 3-person thing. I'm probably not gonna wow out with like 50 people or whatever,
Yeah.
but for me, like dinner, conversation, a
Mhm.
game night, any night, or
Yeah, game night was
movie
fun.
night. Yeah, yeah. So it was like, okay, do I enjoyed celebrating in a way that I like to celebrate. So yeah,
Mhm.
it was, yeah, it kind of snuck past me, even to the point that I did, like, I had dinner with an adopted big sister
Oh,
the day
wow.
before my birthday.
Mhm.
And on my birthday, as people were calling and wish me happy birthday, they were like, "What are you going to do today?" And I'm like, I just felt like I've done so much. Like, I don't think I'm going to do anything today. Like on the actual day, I'm like, but I had dinner with some friends on last week, and I had a game night, and I went to dinner last night. So it was, yeah, it was surprising. So I see
Yeah.
practicing, right? So.
Practicing.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Tadassi. And I know for everybody like that's still with us and watching, I've been like looking at the chat and people are very appreciative of the insight and your philosophy
Oh,
on, you
great.
know, retirement and, thoughts about early retirement and the psychology and the self-reflection. I definitely have taken away some things that I'm going to impart um, as I approach this new transition, right? Using your word
Yes, yes.
and also practicing and being gentle. So this is part of that. Saturday,
Great.
I'm going to a reformer Pilates class as part of my commitment towards like my wellness and being
Yeah.
increasing my physical activity because I realized I was like, okay, now that some of the things that I had to do when I first got here, right, the summit and
Mhm, mhm.
like that. And now I've recorded a couple episodes. I'm like, okay, the podcast is up, like everything is, so I'm like, now I need
Right.
to
So now you wanna do some things you wanna do.
some of the things that I
Not
want to
not
do.
that you didn't wanna do, but just for yourself.
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? I need to do some of the things that I also wanted to prioritize in this, and knowing that there are peaks and seasons, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so that's something I'm looking forward to Sunday or Saturday.
Okay.
So, 'cause I was like, what, how am I going to design like this? And
Yeah,
to your
yeah.
point, like being accountable and holding yourself accountable. Like I said, I wanted to be more physically active, and I am. But like we're in a walkable city. I walked over 10,000 steps today. But just knowing like it does take more than that, like to that commitment. And I appreciate, you coming on. And like I said, just I'm so grateful that, we've been spending time together and
My
getting to know you
pleasure.
more and,
Pleasure.
the wisdom
I,
you
I'm
shared.
hap- I'm happy that people are, that. Well, I'm happy that they like the conversation and that they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's so important, and it's selfish a little bit, but not really. So I like when
Mhm.
people get to be selfish with themselves,
Yeah.
and they can
Embrace
see the
it.
value in it because
Yeah.
often you're not. Like you might get selfish because you're frustrated and you're just sick of it and
Mm.
you're over it and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to do this for me. But it's like for retirement, you can prepare to kind of be,
Yes.
to give yourself that time and analyze what you
Yeah.
want everything to look like. So I'm totally grateful for being here. I didn't know where this conversation was going to go, or if how much I had to add, but I'm glad people appreciated it.
Yeah, no, it was fabulous. And I know I'm just taking a glance at our time.
Right?
It's
Yeah.
now Friday for us.
Oh wow! Wow!
So on that note, for everybody else, where it's just still Thursday where you are in the world, it is now Friday for us. We crossed
Wow!
over.
I didn't realize that.
Well, because it was such a great conversation. We were vibing on the vibe, and you sharing all these gems and nuggets. And like I said, I enjoyed every minute of it, and I always enjoy spending time with you. And so I'm glad we could spend this time with people, with people too. So thank y'all for tuning in.
Yes,
Uh,
thank you. Thank
Tadassi
you.
and I are going to get some sleep.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And thank y'all for rocking with us and all the great feedback. Definitely, if you haven't already, like this video, please, and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who you think would benefit from what we discussed tonight, because I think this was really impactful on a lot of levels. Like I said, for myself, and I can see from the chat, it was impactful. And thank you again, Tadassi, for sharing your wisdom and gems. And I will catch all of y'all next Thursday.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.